All right, I'm going live. Oh, hello, wonderful humans, friends, and AIs as well who are processing this stream. We are here with the platform and core development teams to give you an update what happened in the past 2 weeks, as usual. And as usual, we would like to ask you to raise your questions in the live chat below. We will have a dedicated session at the very end where we're trying to answer all the related questions. So what is related to the development update? There are certain topics that outside of the scope of this development update that we cannot answer, or we will not answer those in the Q&A session. We will try our best, but we only have an hour, that as usual. So please feel free to ask. Please feel free to give us feedback. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. I need to find my Zoom window though.
Well, I can take over in the meantime.
Yeah, please.
Sam here, CTO at Dashcore Group. Yeah, it was a very exciting sprint. We got a lot done. We're going to give this presentation basically in 3 parts, explaining and talking about the V24 release, V0.24 release, not yet version 1, but still in testing version numbers. And then we're going to talk about 0.25 and the deployment and how that's going, and also talk about various other parts of the project, including core, including V19 for the update of V19, and some things like Dashmade, etc. So without further ado, and I think I said further ado twice already, so let us go in and start with 0.24 update. So we released 0.24. Ivan, you want to, I think you're first to talk here, right?
Yep. Oh, I
skipped one.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. It's Ivan, lead platform developer. Dashcore Group is delighted to announce finally V24 release on testnet. It took us 6 months of development. We wrote a lot of code. You can see some numbers on your screen. It's like we did about 400 pull requests. A lot of files changed. One of the platform components shipped for mainnet. We'll talk about it later. So I would like to say thank you for everyone who participated to the Dashcore Group development team for your long nights debugging issues and writing the code. So your mama already forget how you look like, and that's finally it. So, and I would like to say thank you also to the other developers and testers and our infrastructure team as well, who helped a lot, and incubator as well, of course. So let's see what's there.
First, maybe
Igor.
we can go with Igor.
Thank you, Ivan. Thank you, Balázs. Hey everyone, Igor is here. So I'll briefly talk about the headers first synchronization in JavaScript SDK. So this new kind of chain synchronization improves security and reliability in Dash SDK wallets. And SDK, JS SDK now supports SPV client capabilities. It's performing full chain synchronization and verification by asking randomly selected masternodes in the network. It's done the similar way to the mobile, because mobile clients are actually using P2P, and P2P is not available in browsers. So we are using gRPC streams and kind of downloading and verifying the whole chain in a similar fashion. Originally, the problem that the intention for this change was designed a while ago, but at some point it became very hard to work with the JS wallet, because if there were many transactions counting to hundreds of them, wallet simply produced a denial of service attack, attempted to make a denial of service attack on network, and nothing was actually happening afterwards. If you try to download 1,000 transactions, then it was a bottleneck. It just hung because of the inability to retrieve the metadata, which is actually stored in the block headers. So this thing now is done, and we are counting our transactions. We are having their timestamps and block heights and etc., without actually bringing harm to the performance and user experience. This is it from my side.
Right, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Javid, would you, and also,
Hello there.
yeah, thank you.
Please go on.
Yeah, just wanted to highlight that we did a lot in V24, and if you can be brief about the achievements here or the actual done items, we'd be appreciating.
Sure.
Yeah,
I'll try that. So first one is identities deep 11 implementation, which basically are identities on the system. And we had it implemented partially before, and this release concludes this implementation, which includes those changes as we've introduced identity update state transition, which allows you to update partially the identity, especially keys, I believe, with additional key purposes for masternode payouts and withdrawals to withdraw your credits back to Dash. And we've implemented an identity key ownership proof. And that's about identities. Then next one is porting Dash platform protocol to Rust. So this was a huge thing. As we're long-term goal, we always been trying to move to Rust for performance and security advantages. And Dash platform protocol is one of our core concepts. We've made a huge ton of work to port it to Rust. And it's finally in this release through WASM bindings, which translates Rust to JavaScript. And yeah, that's it. And also we've implemented a state transition fee distribution, which, because previously fees were stored in centralized pool. And now we've implemented a distribution fee allocation method that involves Evo masternodes or participating in a consensus process. And the distribution is based on term epochs, which are roughly 18 days. They are served as intervals for fee allocation, and processing fee distributed at the end of each epoch. And the storage fees are allocated to specific epoch pools, and masternodes receive their share of those storage fees gradually over a period of 50 years, which we believe promotes decentralization and equitable compensation for masternodes throughout this extended period of time. And that's should be it, I believe.
Thank you very much.
That was very well said, Javid. I will continue with identity storage optimization. one slightly bad part that we had before was that whenever you wanted to make a change to an identity, let's just say you wanted to update the balance of your identity by doing an action, you had to take all the identity, deserialize it, change one field that might just, be adding 5 credits, and then put it back, right? And that was extremely expensive, an extremely expensive operation to do for not trying to do much. So on top of that, it was also very difficult to query just specific parts of the identity that you were interested in. For example, when I start my phone, maybe I want to know my balance. The app that I'm interested only cares about the balance, does not care about key updates, doesn't care about what else? Key updates, revision, contract, specialized information. It might just care, it just wants to know the updated balance, right? So now you can query just the information that you care about. And you can get a proof just for the sub information. The next one is protocol version signaling. So this basically allows for hard forks to happen on platform. Before this, our plan was to use core every single time platform needed an update. But obviously that's not that great because let's say you needed an immediate update for platform. Well, you would need, to go through the whole core process, getting miners upgraded every time you wanted to make a change on platform. Now it's much more simple. What happens is, let's say a new version is released, and you can have multiple different competing versions as well. DCG can release a version, another entity could release a version. It's very decentralized. And the version that has the most nodes that signal for it in a given epoch, which is 18.25 days, give or take, wins. So so basically it also needs to have 2/3 signaling for it and be the top one. So when it wins, it gets locked in, and then the next epoch is basically just an epoch that is used for everybody else to catch up, basically. And then it activates at the end, and all nodes that haven't upgraded will no longer get rewards. Okay, so on to Ivan again. No, Ivan. Total.
Ivan.
Unless I made a mistake.
Dima,
yeah. Same block of execution. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Hello everyone.
It's your favorite topic, right?
Yeah, we finished working on it quite a long time ago. So basically, we finally delivered it with this new release. One of the significant improvements made by our team for this release is the same block execution. Previously, we had another approach which is called next block execution, and previously, every time a new block was committed, and the Dash had to generate an additional block in order to include the generated app hash. Well, it was necessary because the app hash is only generated on the finalized block step. This is the last step of the block processing. So the block that is committed includes the app hash of the previous block. In order to add the new app hash into the blockchain, then the Dash had to create the extra block with a new generated app hash. And the same block execution improvement allows us to eliminate generating the extra block because the block executes on the first step of the block processing in this approach. Well, the benefit of this approach is reduce resources consumption, block processing time, and storage space. This is quick explanation of what is that.
Thank you very much. Let's move on with Konstantin. Kostya?
Oh, it's muted. Sorry. Hi, everyone. So let me talk about decentralized API with HTTPS. DAPI services now support HTTPS, enabling the development of web-based dApps. This is important because modern browsers prefer to use HTTPS instead of HTTP. They did because HTTPS provides an extra layer of security by encrypting the data, and it helps to protect against different types of cyber attacks, like man in the middle. Yeah, and since our nodes use dedicated IP addresses, it was possible to add HTTPS certificate support. And now HTTPS integrated into Dashmate, and we have several options for developers and users. For local networks and testnet, developers can use either cell-side certificates, which can be created automatically in Dashmate, or they can specify their own certificate files. Also, Dashmate has integrated support for using Zero SSL provider for automatic certificate generation and renewal. Zero SSL allows you to create free certificates that are valid for 3 months. And in the future, we will add more providers to provide a range of choices, including a choice of payment methods. And for sure, we will support providers that allow you to pay in crypto. That's it.
All right, thank you very much. Getting back to Ivan.
Yeah, thanks. Total create balance certification was that. It's one of the innovations what we bring to the industry, and this feature based on the GroveDB Sum Trees feature. I guess we posted a blog post recently to describe this, right, guys? So if you're interested, you could look at this in detail and read in details. But relying on this feature of the sum trees, we put all the input credits to the platform, what we mean on the platform during the locking Dash on the payment chain, and then funding them for identity balances. So all these input credits we put on the total credit balance, and then every block we compare this total balance with the sum of all balances, all identity balances, including the fee pools and all additional data which contains credits in the state, to make sure that there is no any inflationary bugs in the system. So basically, we double check that the logic behind the identities and identity balance are correct on the storage level. And every block we compare all the balances equals to the amount of the credits what's supposed to be in the platform. It's a pretty cool thing. Yeah. Oh, we already talked about the Dashmate a lot. So I just said briefly that during this release, we reworked the Dashmate setup command, which before was understandable probably only for very technical person, and now it's human friendly and allow you to set up any types of node for any networks, including setting local development network for on your local machine. And we included the HTTP API for Dashmate. So instead of CLI, you can use also the HTTP requests to manipulate this Dashmate. And Dashmate is officially the tool to start your first EvaNet, Eva master node on mainnet. Yeah, still confusing sometimes. Oh, fee refunds. Guys already talked about the fees, and the fees they split into processing fees and storage fees. And processing fees you pay for the state transition execution. It's like the cost for the CPU time and memory consumption during the state transition execution. And storage fees, this creates what you pay to store your data. So when you create a document for data contract, you pay to store the data, what's required to store the documents. And when you delete the documents, these are credits what you paid for storage will be refunded you back. So that's pretty cool. You don't need to pay for what you don't really need. Thank you.
We'll continue with you.
Yeah, so this sprint, obviously we worked on the testnet deployment. Yeah, so I just briefly go through it. Of course, we had some issues during the testing. Some super scary non-determinism issues when the different nodes producing different results, so nodes can achieve the consensus on the state. We found few sources of that. Some of these issues were fixed not just for 24 but for 25 as well. We also faced with the problem that there are some third-party nodes on testnet, and those nodes might not have the platform installed. So, sorry. So during the data set rotation, you might end up with the quorum, which has like a lot of master nodes without the platform. So basically the chain is stuck. And fortunately, some of the guys agreed to just stop some of the Eva nodes, and we also introduced some simple checks during the rotation to make sure that the next quorum will be healthy. Could you go please to the next slide? Yeah, and we did some testing related to make sure the Dashmate is connecting to the testnet, so you can use Dashmate to start your own testnet node and participate in testing. We also updated SDK and we made sure it works properly with testnet, so you can do your development against testnet without any issues. One of the interesting thing what we fixed was introducing zero SSL certificates on testnet instead of self-signed. It was some report recently that the self-signed certificates obviously doesn't work in web browsers. So we fixed that. The client version 24.3 should work properly against the testnet. Yeah, we did some release routines, and that was interesting. We played with the consensus timeouts. So there are some steps during the consensus process when the nodes are voting for the blocks, then they accepting these blocks and so on. And it depends on the size of the network and latency. We need to adjust this timeout, so we gained some knowledge around it. That was interesting. Thank you.
All right. Shall we move on? Move on, Sam, to V25?
Let's keep on saying 0.25, otherwise some angry people in our community are going.
0.25. Thank you very much.
Yep. Yeah, so without let me start. 0.25, we're going to separate this into multiple subsections. First one is going to be basically new features that we added, but most of these features that you're actually going to see right now are not so much like big features, but more features that were needed because of fixes. So here's the first one, getting proofs for state transition successful, unsuccessful execution. Basically, I realized we had forgotten about this one. When you send a state transition to platform, you need to get back a proof that it was actually successfully executed. And it had been overlooked that this was needed. So that's that feature. Document and contract client side query verification. This is actually not even so much for platform. It's more for light clients. Because we know the queries system very well, it's just easier for this to be written in platform code. But now we have the mobile clients and SDK that can use this query verification to make sure that the proofs returned to them are correct. Yeah, this was the third one is using the validator set with empty public keys when not a member of a quorum. This was also something that was overlooked. So when you are part of the quorum, so we can actually think of nodes running platform in three categories. We have the members of the current validator set. We have Evo nodes that basically are, well, they're Evo nodes. They have 4,000 dash collateral, but they are not part of the current validator set. They will rotate in. And then we have a third type that are considered just basically full nodes that aren't actually getting paid to run it. There aren't going to be many of these full nodes, but anybody can run one and connect to the system if they want to. So if you are not part of the current validator set, you might not get the public keys that are used for verification of messages between the validator set, and that's fine. We just needed to code this up. So the next one is updated our query system to work with new features. Yeah, so we had the query system that was kind of where it was at in 0.24, but there was actually a lot of new types of queries that were needed. And like, for example, a lot of the identity v2 queries, handling the new proof system, a lot of that stuff hadn't yet been done. So, that's all done now. Versioning. So versioning is going to be part of the beta 2 release of 0.25. Instead of having like long releases, we're going to have like really short releases. There's going to be a 0.25 beta 1 releasing very soon. I'm not going to make any promises right now, but very soon. And we're going to get to what's still needed in it by the end of this review. And then we're going to have the beta 2. And well, I'll explain the beta 1, beta 2. It was actually also explained in the V24 release notes that we published yesterday. Another thing that we did was the gRPC DAPI client for Rust. We didn't actually have a client in Rust for DAPI, and well, we needed that for version 0.25, so that was built. And then, you know, the last one is also kind of like a fix/feature, added a retry capability in case of timeout from Dashcore. You know, it is a feature, but it's to really solve a problem. Okay, moving on to next features, continued. Javid, you want to take the first three?
Hey there, sure. So quickly, I will quickly recap what has been done. So we are trying to prepare our code base to Core V20. And the first thing we noticed is Dashcore lib, specifically Coinbase payload. There are additional fields added for version 3 of the payload. And this has been done both in JavaScript and Rust. This second one, we had validations in JavaScript version of the Dash platform protocol, which we added back to Rust version of it, which were for timestamps of the document batch transitions. And the third one is, so we've updated the usage of the JavaScript version of the Dashcore lib, but with Rust version, there are some small issues currently in V25 we are trying to resolve. That's why it's said that it's in progress. We just need to update the dependencies, and that should technically work. But there are some issues with cargo. And that's basically it. We should go next.
Thanks, David. I'll continue. I would like to say that the only one from this list and the list before that is needed for our beta 1 release is the last one here, use of an updated Dashcore lib in 0.25, and I'm sure that will be done within a. I mean, I can imagine that will be done quite quickly. It's just that it's not like a long task. It's just that that's where we are right now. So the next one seems to have gotten in here in a not so pretty sentence: revisit mutability things in DBP, data contract, allow for updates. So this was actually just copied over from our from a task. Yes, we have mutability of data contracts, allowing specific types of updates. And we wanted to verify that that was working correctly, and that, for example, you could mark some data contracts as being completely immutable, or being mutable just for some data document types inside the data contracts. So that's just verification that that's working properly. And that's in progress. I'm not sure if much, I think it's just that it was just started. Verify C bindings for contract query proofs. Since it's just one thing, I'll say it quickly. This is, again, something for the mobile. We talked about some verification that's needed. This is not really platform, but it's like in between, and we're going to help out mobile teams by writing these bindings. Drive log into file. This is getting all the errors and all the logs that we're getting in Drive and putting them into an easier file to query them using Elasticsearch. I hope that's what that task means. I'm going to guess. Okay, let's go on. So as I said, most of things we worked on were fixes or fixes that turned into features. I'm going to go through the fixes very quickly. We had a non-determinism fix. We were using a hash map for quorum info in a proposer test. And this was actually causing a problem on startup that could randomly occur. Very, very difficult to figure out. And just for, wannabe devs out there, or devs, or anybody who is working in the blockchain space and doesn't yet know this problem, let me just tell you, hash maps are evil. We try not to use them at all. Sometimes we use some because we're using them with a library. The problem with the hash map is that it uses a hash that's non-deterministic for so you're actually never going to know the ordering of your elements. So word of advice, don't use hash maps unless you're completely sure what you're doing. This is not a situation where we decided to use a hash map. This is a situation where an external library had a hash map. Removed entropy field from data contract. Okay, so this is again not super important. We had entropy field that was both in the data contract as well as inside the state transition. We didn't need it in both places. We got rid of one place, and it solved an error in deserialization. Fixed ABCI info request. When the node restarts, it queries platform, what height are you on? And before it was an oversight, it was always responding, I'm on height 1. And we were like, why is it always restarting the chain? Yeah, it was just an oversight. Init chain should disregard Genesis block if it is called again. This is an error if on the very first Genesis block, if there is an error in the block proposal, it should restart the init chain as well. That's also done. Stopping and restarting a node should cause the node to enter could cause the node to enter a bad state. Yes, that actually was 3 errors, but we fixed all 3. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Igor, who will talk about the test suite status on 0.25.
Thank you, Sam. Alongside with a lot of work on the dry side of V25, we also had to stabilize and make sure that the other parts of the system are compatible. Because, well, when you transfer from language to the other, it's quite hard to make things 100% one-to-one. And yeah, so currently the status is following. We have stabilized happy flows for identity creation, update, and top-up, for data contract create and update, and for document creation, deletion, and update as well. We have error handling in progress because this part, basically the test suite consists on 30%, functional tests consist on 30% of happy flows and on 70% of various situations that could go wrong. So it will still take some time to make sure that the all errors are correct. Well, actually, the errors drive responding with correct with errors in standard situations. It's just a matter of developer experience to improve the error messaging and error codes, etc. So we this part is done on errors drive, but we just have to make sure that it's kind of looks pretty and gives the right message. Second thing we have our second big thing is our E2E tests, which are basically using all the basic functions described on the left side. For example, DashPay test uses identities and it creates a DashPay data contract updates, makes a contact request between Bob and Alice, let's say it in that way, and then breaks this contact request and makes a payment, and etc. etc. So this test is done. However, DPNS test and Mastodon reward shares are in progress because of one thing we noticed today. I think it was probably missed during the integration. In the original version of JS Drive, it was possible to pay for another identity. And RS Drive APCI currently, for some reason, is not allowing that. Well, I think it's just, I don't know, we should clear this out. But yeah, the thing I'm facing today is just, I cannot pay for the DPNS owner identity and for Mastodon reward shares holder identity. I cannot top up their balance. But I think once this incompatibility is resolved, the rest things should go pretty well and nice because, well, functional tests are in a good shape. So yeah, I expect this thing not to take a long time. So this is it. Thanks.
Yeah, before we continue on, I just want to say one thing. Thank you very much, Igor. We have a lot of tests, and a lot of people don't know this. We have 600 tests in Dash Platform Protocol. We have hundreds in Drive. We have hundreds in ABCI. And then on top of all of these tests that are either integration or low-level tests, we also have a test suite. And the test suite runs the actual network on three nodes and sends actual state transition to these three nodes and makes sure that all the various things pass. We can run the test suite either locally or we can run the test suite on a DevNet or on testnet. And it basically can spam the network. It can do tons of things that are expected to work or not work. Okay.
Thank you very much. Ivan, would you take over from the infrastructure side?
Yeah, sure. Had to fix my throat before. Sorry. During this sprint, we looked back to our infrastructure. Since we have many changes in V25, for example, we got rid of JS Drive finally in favor of RS Drive and RS Drive ABCI. So it's a good time to revisit our Docker images and make our builds faster, which dramatically reduce the time what you need to wait to see the result of your work and increase the happiness of developers. So Lukasz, me and Leon, we worked on the Docker image for the platform. So now instead of having separate images for every component, we have one multi-stage image which contains all the stages for all components, and the work what is needed for each component is not duplicating in each Docker image, and it's done only once for every build. So which speed up pretty well the build time. And we also revisited the caching, how we use the Docker cache mounts, SC cache, and other stuff. So yeah, it's the global revisiting of the CI and then Docker stuff. So as a result, we expect a huge speed up for the build process. We're pretty happy about it. Also, we added the additional port check, I would say, the ping command for the Drive ABCI service. So the other infrastructure tools like Dashmate and Smoke Test for our deployment tool can easily check that Drive is listening for ABCI connection from Tender Dash, and we make sure that Drive is operating properly. We also fixed the small issue, which is kind of annoying. With WASM Bingen, there's a tool to compile your Rust into WASM, and it contains two parts. One is the library, what you're compiling with your code, and the tool itself, what you use to compile. And if you have different versions, it's not gonna work. And sometimes the developers of this tool releasing new version, and it's automatically changing in different environments, and they have library of one version, tool of another, and it breaks. And so this thing should fix this annoying issue. There are a few other parts. There are other tasks, mostly like the fixes and simplification. For example, the entry point for Dashmate helper, which should handle different users on the host machine and support your Dashmate configuration based on different users. There is the Docker log, the ability to write the log in Drive in files, as we had in Jazz Drive. Now we have it in Eris Drive. It's in progress now. And there's a small nice feature is to link our pull requests in CI to make sure they are described properly. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. I would like to highlight that we are at the half of our presentation, and we are 12 minutes to the planned ending of this session. So maybe just keep that in mind. So we will obviously not make it in 12 minutes, 12 slides in 12 minutes, but just keep in mind that be time conscious.
Okay.
All right, Dima. Would you take over, Sam? If
Sure. Dima, you're not there?
Yeah. Hello. Hello again. Sorry, I was muted. Yeah. So what we're talking about?
This slide,
Rust
but
dashboard update.
I'll give an intro very quickly. This task is more of a needed task in the long run and a learning task for Dima. Dima's been working and been doing an amazing job on Tender Dash. Tender Dash has kind of been finished for mainnet, or at least for the testing phase. I've been using it for quite some time in 0.25. It seems very stable, and things are great there. So there were some, we needed to find some non-critical but high value tasks for Dima and Lukasz, and this was one of them, Rust-core update. And yeah, Dima, you want to take it?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Sam. Yeah, currently I'm working on stabilization Rust-core, have the backport with upstream. Some time ago, Sam paid attention that the upstream Rust Bitcoin actually, which we forked, went quite long from us, and we decided to backport those changes in our fork. So, and after that, we had a lot of compile issues, compile errors, of course, unit test issues and other stuff. Well, currently we're working on to eliminate all of them. The current status of this task is we already made this library compilable. This is the first achievement, and we already fixed it. Not all. I think we already fixed it all unit tests, but we still have some issues on GitHub CI. Because yeah, one of the reasons why it happened, because for instance, the library should be able to run with no standard library. So basically, we use internally in our library, we use some features from the standard library, but since this library should work on the hardware without a Linux kernel, we don't have to use as a standard library of Rust. So basically, we currently working on to find a trade-off between the approach when we have to use standard library or we have to use some custom implementation and other stuff. Yeah, this is.
Yeah, let's move on. We have not too much time, but thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Sam, would you go next?
Yeah, sure. So deployment update, I think 2 weeks ago, I was talking about deployment 1, deployment 2, deployment 3, deployment 4, and I was saying like deployment 4 is ongoing, and I'll let you guys know how it went. I think it took up to deployment 7. It might be 6. It might have been 8. It's a little fuzzy on how many deployments there were. But then there was one that was somewhat stable, and we got thousands of blocks, and it could have continued on forever because there was actually no errors ever happening. Yeah, so it was somewhat stable because, you know, all the fixes that we've done over the last 2 weeks, well, they were needed. It's just that when you got the thing going, it would continue going. But as you see, a lot of the fixes that we did were on state transitions, were on like initialization, restart, things that were, you know, when deployment is actually going, won't actually happen again, right? So yeah, we stopped this DevNet because nobody was using it, and yeah, it was going to go on forever. We were at, I think, 1,600 blocks or 2,000 blocks, and as it currently stands, we fixed all or almost all the issues that we've known for in the meantime. And while we were hoping to have a deployment of a new DevNet to test out all the fixes that we've done today, we didn't make it, so it's probably going to be tomorrow. And that one will be hopefully very nice. And let's talk about what's left to do for Beta 1. Originally, I was just going to leave this page blank, but I think it's better like this. Yeah, we just need more testing and to find more potential issues. The other day, I found another issue. I even forgot to mention it. Like there was one issue that if you updated a document that had like a certain mutability field, and you updated it by making it bigger 1 week in the future, 2 weeks in the future, and then another 2 weeks in the future, you reduced it in size, it was causing an error. Now, this was tested and there was a test for it, but it slipped through. I don't know how. Anyway, so that was fixed as well. But like more and more testing is needed, and then we're going to release beta 1. And at that point, when we're satisfied that there are no like, I always remember in my mind, you know, when you hear about gold diggers that arrived in the Yukon 200 years ago, and there was just gold all over the place. Well, that's kind of the state with some of the bugs. We can find them quite easily. When we can't find them quite easily, then it goes into testing phase. And that should be very soon, as everything else I talked about was mostly beta 2. Now, the not so fun part is what is left to do for beta 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to start the testing phase, and we're going to have 50% of devs working on just testing things, and we're going to have another contingency of devs working on beta 2. And the beta 2 has a lot of these things have already been done to some extent. They're like either 50% done, 30% done, 60% done. It depends. So like, I'm going to go very quickly through them, less than 10, 15 seconds for each one. Versioning, I think I talked about before. We need to make sure that not only can we run platform on mainnet, but that we can upgrade it. Heavily, it's been in progress for 2 or 3 weeks. I don't want to include it in beta 1 just because of feature creep, and we want to release quickly and soon that version. Again, these features in beta 2 mostly are not things that external developers are going to care about. Core block reward processing, yeah. So we can distribute to masternode owners, to the Evo node owners, the core we can distribute rewards to them, but we actually have to put the rewards into platform. So the distribution is done, the receiving is not done. That needs to happen. Data contract bounds. This was actually a pull request that I had a few months ago. It needs to be updated for 0.25. And it's just been pushed off, but it's not that big of a task, mostly because a lot of it has already been written. Finalization of withdrawals. That one is more because it's more of a finalization. We have the withdrawals working. We need to make sure they work with core. We still haven't gotten to that point. We're going to do it in the beta 2. Masternode voting. So we have masternode voting identities. We just don't have the ability for them to vote in data contracts yet. This is a really low-hanging fruit, and it's needed for name distribution. So yeah, that not a big task, and we'll be doing that in beta 2. Fee cost tweaking. This is literally just tweaking the costs of various operations, and to make sure that they all make sense together. We have we did a lot of analysis on our fees, but you know, nothing will. We're going to need the data from, well, the actually having it run before we can know the values are good or not. Just-in-time atomic state transition payments. Probably we're going to do this post mainnet right now. Just adding it just in case during the testing phase we realize that we need it for before mainnet. State sync, same thing. This is the largest one here. We're going to try to do this post mainnet. We're just adding it here just in case we have to do it before. And we are only going to know those two during the testing phase. If things basically, if there is an error because of the just-in-time atomic state transition, we'll have to do it. If the non-state sync is too slow, then we're also going to have to do that one. Okay, moving on. to Dashmate stabilization, and I'll give it back to Ivan, I think, or no,
Ivan.
Kostya.
Go to me. So
Yeah.
let me say in a few words. So this sprint, we were focused on continuing stabilizing Dashmate, fixing bugs and improving user experience. So you can see all of them on the screen. And in addition, we decided to drop the name HPMN, which means high performance master nodes. Now we will use the term evolution node. Yay.
Yay.
Yeah.
All right. Should I move to the next slide?
Yeah. And it's who's the next one? Ivan?
No, still you are just more.
You
Dashmate
just
fixes
the
since-
continuation.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's just still pieces here. So you can see that we are doing end-to-end tests for Dashmate and just another piece of bugs that were fixed.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
Dashmate more stable and stable.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
All right. Then we can continue with the core team.
All right, thanks, Balazs. Feel free to go on to the next slide. So we're gonna try to be a little more brief than the rest of the teams here, but we're gonna start with the V19 upgrade status. We are sitting closer to about somewhere between 70 and 75% of master nodes have now upgraded. I think actually since I pulled this data, it increased a little bit more. I think, yeah, so Dash Ninja right now is showing about 78, 79%. The data on the screen here is a little bit lower than that, I believe, but yeah, we're now close to 78, 79%, and proof of service bans are going to start really kicking into effect and really start hitting people at these percentages. So if you have not upgraded yet, you really need to make sure you are updating, or you're going to have issues and you're not going to get paid. So up to you, I guess. But yeah, so the activation date is going to be the 22nd of this month. That is now in, what is that, 6 days. The block is on screen here. If you're not upgraded by that time, you're going to completely fork off. Yeah, please make sure you upgrade. You're going to get, the hard fork is locked in. It's going to happen on this date. Yeah, 80% of max nodes roughly have upgraded. And if you have not, then please do so. That's about it for this. We can go on to the next slide. And I think Odie's going to take it over.
Okay, so hello guys. Quickly, the V20 development status. So we are continuing with the decentralized randomness improvement. So basically the first step, the introduction of on-chain chain lock signatures in Coinbase transaction is completed. The second part of this feature, which is basically the shuffling of masternode for quorum selection based on the chain lock signatures of part 1, is implementation is done. The PR is under review and it is partially deployed into DevNet for testing. And the third and final step of this feature is going to be the SPV client supports. So basically, we need to make sure that mobile clients will have all the info necessary to calculate the quorum members themselves, since they don't have access to block transactions. Hence, they miss the Coinbase transactions. So we'll provide all the necessary information through the masternode list if P2P message. Then the next big feature pending is the enhanced hard fork implementation, which is currently in progress as well. Asset logs are currently being deployed also in a separate DevNet for testing. And the Masternode reward reallocation, location reallocation is also under review. Last but not least, the implementation of GUIX, so the replacement of Gideon, is also in progress. As always, here's a small screenshot and a list of the merged PRs. Feel free to have a look in GitHub if you are truly interested. I think I'm done. Basta, in case I missed something, we can continue to the questions.
Yep, sounds good. Let's move on.
All righty. So first of all, thanks, Brian, for helping with the questions. I really appreciate because we have a ton of questions. So let's move on to the questions, though. Please keep in mind that we can only answer the ones that are related to development update, and that we are doing our best to answer any other questions as well. I mean, yeah, we only have the competency here to answer those that are related to the development. So the first question is, you guys have an estimated time of arrival on when we will be able to reserve our identities on Evo mainnet?
Yes, sure. I guess I can take that one. You won't be able to reserve your identities. I'm guessing what the question, what they're asking is, at what point can we reserve the username? Identities are like, there's nothing better from one identity to the other, right? They're just a series of keys. But the usernames are probably much more interesting to people. So when we start platform, there's going to be it's going to start in batches, right? So there's going to be the activation of platform that happens at the height of V20, and then there's going to be a 2-week period. Ooh, I'm really tired right now, so I forget the exact way we're activating it. It's written down, but we have, I think it's even on the roadmap. But we have a 2-week period, either right afterwards or a week afterwards, where you can vote on who gets what username. Basically, not you can vote. The masternodes, all the masternodes can vote on who gets what username, and it's basically you can say, hey, you can try to reserve your name, and if there are clashes between you and somebody else, it becomes a popularity contest, and the Masternode network basically gets to choose who is the real like for example, I'm known as Quantum Explorer. Who is the real Quantum Explorer? Now the network can say that somebody else is the Quantum Explorer, but I hope that they won't do that. And this will be for pretty much all the names of the network. This is the best way that we could find to do it in a truly decentralized way. And yeah, we don't play lip service to decentralization. We really believe in it. DCG just handing out names would have been the worst possible way. A free-for-all would have been just as bad because, well, in a free-for-all system, one person could just get everybody's username as well as every major company on the globe and every celebrity just on block one, and nobody really wants that. So yeah, the question of when will this be? Well, we're going to enter the testing phase quite soon. Testing phase is going to last 2 months. At the end of that testing phase, we're then going to have the release candidate. Release candidate is going to be pushed, and then it's going to take a month for activation. So 3 months and a week.
Thank you very much. Where can I download Block Explorer for TenderDash?
A Block Explorer for TenderDash. So
There are there are a few available actually in the industry what we can take open source, but I think it's a great task for incubator.
could be a great task for incubator. Yeah. It won't actually, I mean, I don't think, Ivan, that they'd work directly. It depends. I'm not completely sure. I think some modifications would have to be had.
Yeah, of course. It needs to be modified to represent our state transition data in types.
Yeah, currently we don't have a Block Explorer. But you have to understand that it's not so much a Block Explorer that's interesting, but it's actually a State Explorer as well, where you can just go into any data contract and look at the state of any field or anything anywhere in the state. That's probably more interesting. So we need a State Explorer. We don't currently have one.
Next question is there any documentation available for external developers in order to make them familiar with the products and allow learning on how to develop apps with the platform? Yeah, with the platform.
So we do have some documentation on dash.org, and then you go into the documentation, and then you go into the platform documentation, and there is documentation. It hasn't been updated for version 0.25 yet, but it shouldn't change all that much. It's very much around how you create and send a data contract, and how you create your indexes on the data contract to make the storage be efficient, and so that your users can query the information that they should care about.
Yeah, it's dashplatform.readme.io, if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you very much.
We're also currently working on GroveDB documentation, so that developers can use GroveDB as a standalone product. But that's, not really the question. I just remembered that that's actually happening this week.
Thank you very much. Dash is forgotten by the old crypto crowd and unknown among the new crypto enthusiasts. Is DCG planning awareness and marketing campaigns, or it should be rather considered a task for other groups? Sam, maybe you can speak to that.
Sure. Okay, well, I won't talk about the forgotten part, or that we're unknown to new crowd. That's the statement, and I can't really disprove it or prove it. I can't prove it either way. So, or at least I can't in this call. So I'll talk more about like what we're going to potentially do.
Yep.
we've gone through these cycles internally for years saying, oh, right now is the time to market. If we had listened to any of those times and been like, okay, this is the time to market, we would have continuously marketed something that was not ready. The time to discuss our marketing is when we are ready, close to being ready with a version that we are in testing, like the final version in testing, like a month, 2 months before mainnet activation. Before that, it's really worrying because something could come up and you're going to market something that too early. We do have plans internally inside of DCG to market. However, those, our teams in that area are quite small at the moment, and we would really appreciate our community doing everything that they can to help us and to help Dash.
Thank you very much. The big thing for crypto, in my humble opinion, is DeFi, decentralized finance. Is there a plan to develop bridges/connectors in order to get Dash represented one-to-one on other networks as Rep Dash?
Yeah, there is a plan. So we have in our roadmap, it's slipping my mind right now. You shouldn't stay awake for so long. Ivan, can you help me out here? Or Dima, the name of the feature?
Yeah, it's inter-blockchain communication bridge.
Yeah, so we have in our roadmap inter-blockchain communication. To do inter-blockchain communication, we have to, the complex part is not understanding other chains. That's actually very, very simple. The more complex part is having us integrated in inter-blockchain communication. One of the reasons why we upgraded our BLS scheme in version 19 of Core was to use the standard BLS library, because asking external chains to speak the same language, to be unable to understand TenderDash would have been an almost impossible task if we were using a non-standard crypto library. And by the way, we had to use a non-standard crypto library because we were so in advance of the times when we started using it. Then there was a standardization of that library, and that's what's happening in V19 of Core. So yeah, we do have plans, inter-blockchain communication, and that will be very interesting when we get there.
So
let me really quick briefly explain what's that. Inter-blockchain communication, the standard which supports, it's mainly supported by Cosmos Hub and Cosmos ecosystem, and each chain needs to have own light client to be, as Sam already mentioned, to be written on other side. It doesn't use any intermediate nodes, so the chain could send packages to each other and have a proof of the data. So implementing inter-blockchain communication protocol will enable communication with Cosmos Hub and many other chains. So we can exchange the assets and do pretty cool stuff like wrapped tokens. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. I guess I'm skimming through the questions, but I can't find another one that hasn't been answered by Brian, because there are many DashPay related questions that are already answered. And hopefully I didn't miss anybody's question. If I did, I'm sorry. We will get back to it next time. But we had a lot of comments. Thank you for that. I really appreciate the questions, the comments. If you have any further feedback, let us know. Shall we wrap up? Looking at Sam. Yeah. All right. If no further questions, thank you everybody for joining today, and see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.